Peace and welcome back. Like I promised in my last video, I would like to talk a little bit about the topic of love. And specifically about the love between a man and a woman, and about what I would call true love. And we want to ask the question if true love really exists. And I grew up not really knowing what a what a woman should be like. I didn't had any perception of values that that are important, and I didn't really knew what to look for. And I have to admit that I was kind of I was a victim of the sexualized society, of course, like most people are. And I started to make my thoughts since I was, I would say, 14. And or no, 13. 13 to 14. I can remember my 14th birthday that I was chatting with a girl. And in my honest opinion, in my honest beliefs, I always knew what true love was about. And it is the loving, the pure love to, or because someone is like how he is, and the love of the soul of this person, not the body and anything else what is wrapped around it, but her soul. And I started to realize down the time that I knew it, but I always neglected it. I always thought, well, maybe it's not that important, and so on and so forth. And I can remember that the first girl I was interested in was purely because of her looks. And I always came back to the belief of true love when this person was not moral enough, when she did something that was immoral and thus unacceptable to me. Because I always kept my moral standards. There was always a baseline of moral standards I had, and over the time this moral standard was growing more and more into pureness. And after that first one, the second one was okay. She was good looking, and she was nice, and she had good humor, so that was important too. And after that disappointment, because it was always this moral disappointment that I was saying, well, that's it. Like, no way this is ever going to work. And I know it's quite ignorant for a very young guy to make serious. I always had a serious intention, and I know it's very naive, of course, in that young age, but I always had the serious intention of having kids and marrying, and always, like, you know what I mean. And after the second one, there was the third one that had one more characteristic that was appealing. It was always one step further. It was always one climb on the ladder. And and you have to understand that I was not very evolved as a man till I was, I would say, 18, 19. Um, and I was very small. I was very fat. I was overweight. I didn't had any beard. I was very innocent looking, and I didn't had any like manly traits. All I had was this innocence and this kindness and yeah, just being nice. But I always observed that all the people in my class were a lot more, I would say, developed in their manlyhood, and I always had respect, and I always ranked myself under them in the alpha pyramid. But eventually, so after a couple of more, yeah, I would say personifications of women, this my position switched. I was not the seeker anymore, but I became the seeked. So now it was not me that was interested in the women, but the women were interested in me, and yeah, after like I would say in every man's life, there is a point where you make the switch. You have to do it yourself, and you stop being the nice guy, and you realize what the cause for all this emotional miserliness was, and that was your own failure of being a man. So what you will do is you will start to go to the gym, and yeah, you will take more risks, and you will just yeah, you will become more confident and more dominant, and you establish and develop a self-reliance, and you're just doing, yeah, you just do what you what you do, and you become, slowly but surely you will become a real man. But I'm not saying that I'm a real man now, but I would say that I have made significant developments on that part, even if I look at the past months, and it is a learning curve. So I'm constantly learning more things, and this is just the point I'm now, and I'm making this self-talk with me again for you to learn from. So, like I said, there's going to be this turning point, and yeah, women are going to be interested in you. It's very new. It's a very new environment. It's a very new situation, and of course, it boosts your ego. It makes you even more manly, and yeah, and you think, well, maybe now there's going to come this dream girl that you ever hoped for, yeah, because in the time I was making the switch, I was in the depth of traditional Islam, and there are going to be a lot of different opinions, but essentially the feminism, not the feminism, but the femininity of yeah, traditional Islamic women are they are very weak. They are very emotional dependent. They are very hopeless, and I saw that there was no real difference between Sunni women and normal women that lived in the normal German society. And I could remember, like I didn't had I didn't had a beard, and and I was praying for a righteous, God-believing girl, someone to marry. And yeah, it's really funny to think about that. But yeah, you will eventually move forward, and like I said, you will climb up the ladder even more, and yeah, you will start to see the different kind of patterns that women will use to, yeah, to I would say to seduce you in a kind of a way. I had situations where women clearly stated to me that they would like, or that they want sex, and oh, how many times I don't know, and like this, even like physical seduction in a kind of way, where they try to grab you onto certain body parts, and yeah. So those are the steps you go through, and the wisdom you will gain is essential for the path you will eventually come to, which will be the illumination to the fact that real love can only exist with the love to God, and that people who do not, or women who do not believe in God and practice the law of God, that they are not worth it. They are not worth talking to. They are not worth chatting with, and it is just a downward spiral to fornication, every unnecessary contact, and God is going to test you in many ways, with many kinds of archetypal women that will approach you, and there is no age, and there is no method that is unused by them in kind of a way. So they are sometimes very perfidious. They have perfidious tactics, long-term plans, how they try to lure you to them, or to seduce them, or the man. And you have to be resilient. You have to keep yourself pure. Because I knew when I would fornicate, I knew that I will never get a real, true believing wife. And I know it now too. And the good thing about it is that in a stage of believing and following God alone, and keeping yourselves pure, you will become very aware of the different kinds of evil women. And you know what they think. You know what they are looking for. You know why they do certain things. It's like you can read their mind. You know why they are writing to you. You know why they are looking to you in this way. And you have the responsibility to drive this into the direction you want. And if you want, you can fornicate with them if you want to. But you can also reject them completely. And of course, the second one, the second choice, the second way is the best. It is the way that God saves us from our own sins and from our own evil deeds. Because many people cannot look past the orgasm you have, past the point of having sex. And they do not see the evil after that. They see the enjoyment of the moment, but they don't see the evil outcome of what follows after that. And that can there are a lot of things that can happen, and it starts with emotional pain, and it can end in the worst possible scenarios, in suicide or in murder or in having an unwanted child. There are a lot of things from that, and we see in the Quran that there is a very heavy punishment for committing fornication, having sex outside of marriage. And that is 100 wipes. 100 wipes. And the consequence after that is a genetic change, a genetic pollution of your soul. And that is, the cause of that is that you are not allowed to marry a pure believing woman, and you can only have sex with another believer that committed zina, what it's called in Arabic, fornication, or with an idolater. And this is very significant, and this is something that is mostly overseen by the traditional Sunnis, where they essentially fornicate a lot, especially here in Germany. They have their own cultural, their own cultural caste. Those Sunnis that fornicate, they have specific terms, specific descriptions in the youth culture. And this is something you have to keep in mind when you are in a phase where maybe your hormones are passing or are in control instead of your sound and clear mind. And a very major thing to prevent zina is to keep away from parties, to keep away from festivals or crowds or alcohol or drugs in general, any kind, because that will always soften your mind, and that will allow the shaitan to seduce you into a level of consciousness where you are able to commit that. And luckily, and I'm very thankful to God that I never did it. I was close to it, but I never did it, and I'm very thankful for God. And I think that this component of choosing not to do it is a very important part when we talk about true love, because you have to believe and you have to trust that there is someone out there that maybe goes through the exact same stages, but as a female or as a male. But a female from my perspective. And it always gives me hope when I look at the women like Maria, or the wife of the Pharaoh, that those kind of women actually existed. That women that are chaste and that have morals and that really, really, truly believe in God, that they are there in the world. And the moment you will meet this woman, maybe she's going to tell the same story as I am, but from her own perspective. And we can exchange the different situations. And yeah, so on and so forth. But this is just my wishful thinking. But do I think that true love exists? Yes, I do believe that. I do believe that it is something magical. I do believe that is something kind of holy. I think that the connection between two souls can be this mystifying experience. And maybe it's because on my horoscope, Venus is at, I think, 26 or 27 degree. And 26 or 27 degree in Aquarius. And that gives my perception of love this secret and mystifying feeling. That what defined true love for nearly all my life, and that I never really found. And I knew, or I know now, that it can only be found through the path of righteousness, to the Sirat al-Mustaqim, to the guidance, and through the guidance of God. And only in an environment where you follow God and where you are doing good and when you are studying His law and keeping yourself pure. Sorry for my bad English. But this is what I believe, and this is what I act upon. And I am certain, and I always was, that she is out there. And maybe, I don't know, maybe she's on the one letter and I can look down and I can see where she is at now. And thinking, oh yeah, I was at that point in my life too. And you will probably experience this and that. And then and after that, maybe God will eventually guide you. Yeah, so that is my video about true love. There's also another thing I would like to discuss that has connection of some kind. I always observed the relationships and I always saw that they, I don't know, it always seemed fake to me. It always seemed artificial to me. It always seemed to me that those people, they were together and having like intimate relationships just for the sake of having a relationship, or saying to the whole world on the internet or on Instagram, we two have sex together, and we will try to show you that it is great and that our relationship is great. But in truth, they do not love each other. They do not know what love is. They don't have this concept. What they are doing is they are deceiving themselves. They deceive themselves and the other person, and they are in a kind of business relationship. Sometimes the woman is just, I don't know, she's just an object, and she's selling herself every night to his boyfriend, who provides her with Louis Vuitton bags or something like this. With this fake Instagram, rich, good life, healthy, hashtag, I don't know. And I saw a very huge uprising in that. in that kind of model. Also in this showing off the relationship on public, and I don't know. Like, in my opinion and in my belief, I would never talk about my wife. I would never show her off. I would do nothing. She would be mine, and I would be hers. And there is no one except for God that will know our intimate life, our thoughts, our emotions, our experiences. No one. This is like the most guarded secret I would had in a relationship with a believing woman. May God grant us all such a mercy. And you don't know, maybe she's listening in, maybe not now, but maybe in a year, or in 5, or in 10, I don't know. But if you're a believing woman, and you know what I'm talking about, you should probably pray to God that He will bring us all together. And until then, shalom, peace be upon you, and I will see you on the next one, or I will hear you in the next one. There's actually something that came into my mind while I am editing this video, and that is what we can do until this point arrives. And from my perspective, it is to become the best husband or the best wife possible. So for me, if I want a good wife, if I want the best wife in the world, I have to become the best husband in the world, or the best potential man that can become a husband. So what I am focused on now is to acquire the means necessary to be a potential husband. And if you are hearing this as a believing woman, then you should probably work on that too, and try to learn what is important in a relationship under the law of God. What is important? What characteristics, what traits are important in being a good wife? So that is the last advice I can give you on that topic. But I will finish making this video now, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.